So a few weeks ago, I was browsing the internet, and of course, because it's me, I'm going to be browsing the internet at 3 a.m. in the morning, because that's what I do. And unfortunately, a lesson that I've learned all too many times, when you browse the internet at these hours of the morning, you sort of lose the ability to spot out Chinese trickery in listings when it's really blatantly obvious. Point being this, I ordered this glass pen, and when it arrived, you're probably thinking what I thought when I opened the box. Its size, Jesus Christ, this is a really small pen, and I should have known from the listing, but, well, there you go. I was incredibly shocked, but that being said, as some people have wisely said, not me, it's not about the size, it's how you use it. So this pen bloody stack up well when I write with it. But let's just go through the dimensions and everything first. Size, it's really small. It's not even 10 centimeters in length. It just barely scrapes under 9.9 centimeters in length, of which 19 millimeters is actually the nib section. So holding onto this pen is going to be a real task. I've always had a bit of a grudge against the Pilot Prera because this is an incredibly small pen, and I know a lot of people complain about this pen. This pen is bigger than this. It's insane how small this pen is. Now, I'm no giant. I don't have the biggest hands in the world, but when I hold it, wow, it is just struggling to fit in my hand. Another thing that this pen really annoys me when you hold it is its width. Its widest point is only 8 millimeters, and that's here. So trying to grab onto this thing it's like trying to grasp onto a straw or a chopstick or something.
It's not about the size, it's how you use it.
This is where you hold it here. So holding it is going to be pretty hard. It's not the easiest thing in the world, and writing with it is not the funnest thing ever. That being said, I'm not going to expect much from it. This pen was $2.80 off eBay with free shipping, so I'm not really expecting much here. If we look at the material is all glass. The whole thing is glass, including the nib. And from what I can see, it's not the highest quality glass. There are quite a lot of air bubbles in it. That being said, when we go to the writing portion of this, you'll see that writing is actually pretty fun with these pens. So, let's talk about the pen itself. This is a dip pen. There's no reservoir, there's no feed or anything. What you're going to get is this, I guess, teardrop shaped nib that has about 10 flutes in it. When you dip the nib in ink, because of the ink's adhesion, it's going to stick to the flutes and it's going to be contained in there until you write with it. Now, writing with this thing is pretty fun. The writing experience is, well, as you're going to see, very similar to what you'd get from a rollerball. That being said, you have to re-dip it about once every 2 sentences, give or take. Now, unlike a regular dip pen, you're not going to get much line variation of this. If you look at the tip of here, it's cut in such a way that it's very similar to a ballpoint pen, sort of like a sphere. One thing I will tell you about is that when using this, because the paper will suck up the ink from this side of the pen, as you write, the writing will be very wet at the very start, and as the ink dries, it's going to get drier and drier and drier, and then if you rotate the pen slightly, you're going to get more ink. That's just the nature of the pen. Yeah, so what do you use these pens for? Well, it's not for calligraphy writing. This pen has no flex, so yes, you can do calligraphy writing with it, but you won't get any line variation. What I really would use this pen for is to test out the colors of ink. So if you've got various inks, I myself have got at least 12 different inks. If you just want to test ink samples, maybe if you're say, mixing inks. I could have used this pen when I was mixing up my Lamy petrol mix. It would be awesome because you dip this pen right with it, just wipe it off with a cloth. It's really that simple. That being said, because of the inconsistent ink flow, it is going to be darker at the very start than it is at the end, and of course it's going to be much lighter at the end. But that being said, ink testing is going to be one of the primary functions of this pen. Pretty much any liquid or ink you can use with this pen, and that includes soy sauce. I don't know why you want to use soy sauce, but there you go. Now, before I get into the writing sample, I will say J. Herbin and quite a few other companies do make these pens. Their pens are going to be much higher in quality, and of course, they're going to be longer than this and a lot more ergonomic to hold. That being said, if you look at Goulet pens, I believe they're going to be about $28, give or take. This, $2.60 off eBay, $2.80 off eBay, and you're ready to go. So, honestly, and if I was going to buy that pen, I probably wouldn't use it all that often. I don't think it's worth the $28 to get a J. Herbin dip pen, but that's my opinion. So, let's just get to the writing sample. Alright then, welcome to the writing sample. The writing sample will be split into two halves. The first half will focus on how the pen writes, how the nib performs, and for that I'll be using Noodler's Bulletproof Black, my favourite ink to use with this dip pen, and the second half will be comparing how Noodler's Bulletproof Black compares to Pelikan 4001, J. Herbin 1670 Stormy Grey, Calligraphy ink, and soy sauce, why not? So, the reason being, the writing experience is going to be heavily dependent on the type of ink that you use, because some inks are drier than others, and when you're relying solely on the ink flowing through these flutes, it's going to be very dependent on whether the ink is dry or wet. So, Noodler's Bulletproof Black. Let's just ink that up and do the writing sample with the first half. Make sure to dip it to the bottom of the first bulb, and let's get started. So, we have the Chinese dip pen, and remember this pen only costs $2.80, and of course Noodler's ink, Noodler's Bulletproof Black ink. So let's get a quote underway. Alright then, that's our lovely little quote there. Now, throughout that, I was slowly rotating the pen because some of the flutes are going to be drier than others by the end of that. You can see these ones here are pretty much empty, and these ones here are still full. Now, when the flutes are really saturated with ink, you're going to get slightly thicker lines for the first line here, but pretty much everything from here downwards is going to be very similar in width. Now, the supply of ink is great. When there is a lack of black ink, it turns a really dark grey, and it's really noticeable. Here, it looks to be all dark black. It's really nice. And as you can see, we still have a little bit of ink to spare. In terms of the line width, it really is dependent, as I said before, on how much ink you have in here. So getting to the end, you'll have lines that are about a Japanese medium, and if you redip, that's really saturated, you're going to get slightly thicker lines. That being said, the darkness of, or the color, is going to look really similar. It's going to be really nice. And as you rotate the pen, you're going to get a very similar line. In terms of wetness, it really is dependent how much ink you have loaded into it. Wet, you're going to get a lot of ink. and further down the road you're going to be struggling. And as the ink gets drier, drying times is going to be cut down immensely. So that is pretty much the first half of the writing sample. Yeah, I'm not going to do how pressure affects this. I'd break the pen. Let's change up to Pelican 4001. See how that reacts. So upon dipping it, you can see that, I haven't dipped it correctly. Upon seeing it, you can see that there is a lot less ink in the flutes when you compare it to the Noodler's ink, and that's really noticeable. So when we do the ink test Pelican 4001, you can see here instantly that it is a much waterier ink. When you first start writing, you can see that there is a small pool of ink here and here, something that I did not get with the Noodler's ink. It's a lot more what can you say, wetter. As you keep writing, you can see that the darkness of the ink is also changing. It's really dark here, and as you keep moving along, unfortunately, the darkness becomes, well, light. I hope that English works, which is really unfortunate, but that's just one of the characteristics of this ink. As well as that, the ink won't last as well because it's going to run down more quickly, and there was a lot less on the nib to start with. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not a particular fan of using Pelican 4001. If we switch over to Jehaban 1670, let me just shake it up and dip it. Hope that was deep enough. Really watery ink in my small use of it. That being said, it looks alright. So, Jehaban, sorry. As you can see, like the Pelican ink, a lot of it is being put down. That being said, I don't know if you can see it on camera, you can see the gold sparkles in the ink. It looks beautiful. 1670, Stormy Grey. You can really see the particles of ink come through, unlike a fountain pen that really struggles to make this ink pop. That being said, a lot of ink is put down very quickly, and you can see the line width has changed. That's now a fine, and ink is almost gone. So uses it up slowly, uses it up a little bit quicker, uses it up really quickly. So let's just do the final test, or second last. Calligraphy ink. This is Speedball ink, and you'll see that it doesn't really work that well. Works well for regular dip pens. This pen, not so much. So, speed, and let me just rotate it. Ball, calligraphy ink. Yeah, that's not working well at all. One thing that I was noticing when I was testing it is if you leave it on for a few minutes, it makes it really hard to clean it out. So Speedball calligraphy ink or any other type of calligraphy ink I'd advise against using. So soy sauce. Let's see how that works. I actually like that. That looks nice. I mean, not soy sauce. I mean, this isn't soy sauce. This is Euro, Euro, in a hoe. Yeah, this isn't soy sauce. This is definitely Euro Shizuku in a hoe, you know, in a how.